Tango at a high level. Yeah, who we are, what we do, and how we do it. From an agenda standpoint, I'm just going to introduce myself. I know there's a lot of people on this call, so and we only have 30 minutes, 24 now. So keep it short and sweet. We'll do just a Tango overview, some questions to ask when you're in the field to find out if you may be engaged on Tango potential opportunity, what our ideal customer profile looks like, meaning what kind of customers fit best into our portfolio and our product, and then just open Q&A for the last few minutes. From there, let me go back here. So I am Eric Wallert. I am essentially your channel manager that supports TDM, Claris, Wheelhouse, for all things Tango, right? So I am your point of contact. Nate Dodd is Director of Strategic Accounts, so he is actively working with some folks on your team. Actually, he's working on an opportunity today with a person in your organization. And then Brian Pacey is our my supporting solution architect. So Brian he's a smart guy in the room. He's the engineer. He's the one that can answer the questions that I can't. Right? So that's who we are. That's our team that supports specifically you folks. So again, the agenda. And real quick, has anybody sold expense management before on the team? Whether it's ours or somebody else's. I won't ask, I promise you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what, Eric, we usually hold all questions till the end,
Okay.
And everybody's on mute, so they can't talk.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So from a tagline perspective, we simplify, manage, and optimize technology for our customers. So by pulling their IT expenses into a single platform, we help them again simplify, manage, and optimize their technology. Lots of changes, obviously, especially since COVID a few years ago. Very hybrid workforce. The cloud continues to explode. I don't want to say exploding because it has been for quite some time. We are seeing a huge push into cloud expense support and help for our customers. We'll get into that. Obviously, traditional network connectivity support and just the digital transformation. So, we support our customers in all things IT. So traditionally, it used to be called telecom expense management, right? Now TEM stands for technology expense management, or so Gartner, for instance, calls it ITEM, right? Information technology expense management. So any of those things, it's transformed from telecom into technology for obvious reasons. So we help organizations do that. From a historical perspective, who is Tango? So we are the leader in ITEM solutions. We started about 24 years ago. We are the pioneer in expense management. We are based out of Indianapolis. I will say this because it'll come up later. We not only do business internationally, we are an international organization, right? And I say that because there is a difference between us and some of our competitors that say they do business internationally, which they do, but we understand it internally because we are an international organization. So we're based out of Indy, but we do have feet on the street, so to speak, across the globe, right? So from a support perspective, we have over 70 patents, many of them AI, to help support our clients. We manage from a device perspective, 14 million devices, manage $15 billion in expenses on behalf of our customers. We have about 1,500 clients plus globally. It doesn't say it in here, but we do business with about 50% of the Fortune 500s. So while bigger isn't always necessarily better when I say that, right? Um, because the platform, our platform, which we call Tango One, is not customer dependent, meaning we do business with some of the largest organizations in the world, but we all do business. We also do business regionally with mid-market organizations as well. They get access to the exact same platform that some of the biggest organizations in the world get access to. So, you know, with a lot of providers, they tend to support their larger clients differently than some of their average, quote unquote, average clients. We don't. Everybody gets access to the same platform with the same capabilities. So that's why, you know, while doing business with half of the Fortune 500 is important, it's also important to the smaller client because, or the mid-market client or the small enterprise client, because they get access to the same portal. They get access to the same platform to be able to do the same thing. So we have direct connectivity with we support more than 400 global carriers, 550 and growing. And I want to say this numbers, it should be 650 plus, I think at this point. SaaS integrations, when we start talking about our cloud platform and how we support on our cloud, which we'll get into, we support 129 currencies. So we help, especially on the international basis, we help international organizations normalize their expenses, right? So we can put it into a single platform so it can be managed centrally, whether it's that's in the US or anywhere else in the world, to help them manage their services, right? Whether it's contracts, expenses, etc., products. We're in over 206 countries. We support 19 languages from a customer service perspective. So if you do have clients that, okay, they might be headquartered in the US, but they have a secondary or tertiary headquarters in France, or you know, you pick another country, chances are that we're going to be able to support them from a customer service perspective. And when it comes to IaaS, we support the top four, obviously Google, Azure, AWS, Google, Azure, AWS, Oracle, right? As well as, and again, we'll get into it from a product perspective, as well as VMware. So when we talk about IaaS, it's not just public IaaS. We help support private IaaS as well. I was going to say any questions, but everybody's muted. You can't ask. Sorry. Tango One, I'm gonna slide. I don't want this to be death by PowerPoint. I want to keep it interactive toward the end. So I'm going to skip over this. Nate, I'm going to hand this off to you to talk a little bit about our Tango One platform and some of its capabilities with respect to exactly what does it look like and what do we do.
Awesome. All right, appreciate that. Thanks, Eric. So I want to spend some time on this slide here and talk a little bit about the sort of the meat of what Tango does. And we spent the first couple of minutes just covering the marketing stuff, the who we are, all of that, all the good things about, you know, why Tango's the best and all of that stuff, right? But at its core, what Tango is and what we do is we manage the life cycle of telecom assets, of mobile assets, and of cloud assets. And when we talk about what life cycle is to us and what that means, that's the cradle to grave or order all the way through payment, right? We recommend when we go into our platform that everything starts with an audit, starts with an optimization exercise. And the reason we do that, and whether that's you know, Tango doing that or whether that's another group like yourself doing that, is we want to ensure that the data and everything that goes into our platform and our system is clean. And that we're not taking a pile of garbage and loading it into something so that garbage then comes out, right? So garbage in, garbage out, everything starts with an audit and an optimization. Then when you get into the true life cycle of each one of those things, again, whether you're talking about a circuit, whether you're talking about non-billing inventory, something that you're tracking on an IT asset from a router, any of those types of items, whether you're talking about a mobile device, a tablet, a MiFi, IoT, any of those pieces there, or getting into even your IaaS, your SaaS licenses, and those types of things. It all starts with that origination of that order. Think of Tango as the workflow platform for that, right? We're not the team that necessarily wants to get into placing all those orders or working with the carriers on that, but we want to build a workflow engine that gives the customer the ability to run it through approvals. If you have to get quoting and things like that, give them the forms there to do it so that it's not done through emails passing back and forth or some other system there. You can use Tango for that. We have customers that don't want to use that order piece and they want us to pick up at the inventory side. And if that's the case, that's completely fine. We can interface with those. We just have to be updated that those orders take place. Because when an order actually does happen, it immediately will create an inventory placeholder for us. And the reason that that is so important, every single activity that takes place downstream from that flows through it. And so if you do not have accurate inventory, you are not going to have a good expense management program. So if the orders are taking place in Tango, then great, they can be flown out to be placed with the carrier by another group, or they can be integrated into the carrier, and then it creates that place order. Now that we've placed an order, we have our inventory, right? That inventory initially is just a placeholder. And so we're looking for that invoice to come in to tie it there, to tie it back to the order. And we're making sure that that inventory is either tied to the right person if it's mobile, tied to the right location if it's, say, a tablet or a ruggedized device. If you're talking about circuits and other things like that, making sure that it's tied to the correct cost center or the correct billing piece. All of that has to be tracked. So you know exactly who you've got or what you've got, and you know exactly who owns it and who's responsible for it. Now that you have that inventory, you're going to get an invoice, right? You got your stuff, you got to pay for it. When that invoice comes in, one of the things that Tango is going to go out and do is we're going to go out and set up all the ways we're going to ingest those invoices. It can be EDI, which is where we prefer. We get the most amount of data from it. But you can all the way go down to some of those regional carriers that are still firing out paper invoices. And we've gotten patented technology. We can ingest that invoice and display it in our system exactly like you would if it was an electronic invoice. We normalize that and present it to display. Then we're performing expense management activities on that, right? We want to make sure, do a variance audit, right? So to see if there's a spike in that, we can go all the way down to a single penny. If it's incorrect based on what you should be paying for, we can flag that cost and go out and chase that cost for you. We have customers that do it by percentage, some do it by dollars, some just say, hey, look, if there's a nickel out there, we want it. So flag it and go get it. That's a big part of what we do. The other piece that we're going to help you with on the expense management side is the chargebacks and allocations. And so when you get involved with your customers, a lot of times there's a large manual effort that goes into place with the finance team in conjunction with your network, mobility, or cloud team to understand that how each one of those costs is then allocated out to the business. And the process for that, as you dig in and ask those questions, with an unmanaged environment, a lot of times you will find out that they're spending hours and hours and hours validating those things, ensuring that they're correct, and then charging them back to the business. Tango is going to help imply a level of automation there that's going to free up people to do other more meaningful work. It's a big area of the expense management space that we really shine at, and we've been able to apply that across all of our infrastructure. We talked about the expense management portion. The other piece that is important is the contract management. So ensuring that all your contracts get loaded into the platform, that they're tied to that inventory, they're tied to that expense, and the dates are tied back to those circuits or those mobile devices so that as those contracts come up, you can be notified. Whoever's going to be responsible for negotiating those contracts, for renewing those contracts, for making sure that all of that stuff gets placed correctly is proactively notified instead of some sort of an evergreen taking place or rolling in or not knowing that something is up and you end up paying something higher than you need to. So we help manage that and proactively tell you that those things are going on so that throughout your network, you're able to then address those items. Finally, we have the ability to go ahead and pay those invoices on the customer's behalf. This is one, I would say one of the reasons we like to do it is it helps us close the loop on those things. Otherwise, we have to interface with their finance department to ensure that those checks were actually applied correctly, and then we can close the loop on our end. But some customers, they want to hang on to that. And so I would say it's one that can be a really good value But it's really case by case, customer by customer. The big thing you want to ask there is, are they incurring late fees right now with their payment process, right? If there's any kind of a holdup downstream, we can start to see a lot of those late fees come in, especially with bigger customers. Those can add up. I've seen customers save $30,000 to $35,000 a year simply by letting Tangoe pay the bills or pay the invoice on their behalf and make sure that those are applied to the correct line items. We hold that responsibility. And if there's any kind of late fees, we actually would pay those, right? We're on the hook for it if we take those pieces there. So when we talk again, just bringing it back full circle, what we do at its core is manage the life cycle of a telecom asset, a mobile asset, and a cloud asset from cradle to grave. Your order management, creating an inventory generates an invoice has expenses tied to it that need to have activities and actions taken on them, and ultimately that needs to get paid. All right, so this is where we focus. This is where we do the majority of our discovery, talking to our customers. It's a very simple slide, but it allows you to walk through each one of those pieces. Eric, if you want to just go to the next slide really quickly. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this. It's really the core tenets of what we do. It's kind of a 3 core tenets. We want to simplify your environment. We want to give you the tools and the ability to manage it, and we want to make sure it's optimized, right? If you have a bunch of processes that all lead to the same place, let's get them all under one roof. If you have, just go back real quick. If you have multiple tools that you're using to manage, let's get those all in one roof. And then let's make sure that all of those things are optimized exactly for your business and how we're going to do that. Go to the slide 9, if you don't mind, Eric.
Sure.
Partner integrations, not going to read every single one of these, but just to show you that we have a plethora of integrations built into our platform. It's actually much more than is on this screen, but all of the majors that you would see on your IaaS, the different carriers, your SaaS applications. We have over 800 different direct integration into SaaS applications. When you talk about communication out and proactive notification, there's several technologies we use there. Your standard UEMs, all of those things that you would expect from an enterprise-grade platform, we integrate and interface with those on a daily basis. So you can have confidence when you're sitting with your customers as they bring those technologies to the forefront that they've invested in and they've spent a ton of money in. They're going to be able to take advantage of those, and they're going to be able to utilize those in conjunction, not necessarily as a replacement with Tangoe. We maximize the use of that investment that they've made to work with their expense management platform. So Eric, we've got 7 minutes left, so let's go on and wrap up, and then if there's any questions, we're happy to answer those.
Sure. So yeah, Ed wanted me to make sure that we gave you guys some questions to ask, right? So what are some good questions, and I'll send this deck out to you. So I'm not going to read through each one of these. I got a couple pages here, but just some basic questions to help understand how your customer is dealing with their expense management today. How do you currently manage it for all telecom, mobile, and cloud? Cloud is inclusive of 3 sub buckets, I'll call it, right? One is IaaS, right? Google, Azure, AWS. The other is SaaS, and I think Nate brought it up that we're north of 700-800 SaaS applications that we are helping our customers manage today. And the third is UCaaS. So we can help organizations that have 8x8, 5.9 RingCentral, help them with those expenses as well, right? So, and it's not just the expenses; it's tracking the usage. Like on the SaaS side, tracking the licenses, the usage on a license. Do they have the appropriate license, right? Are they paying for, an E5 for when they should have an E3, right? We help organizations make those decisions by centralizing all that data. How do you currently verify that you're being billed properly? That's huge, especially when you're in a traditional TEM space. Verizon sends you a 3,000 page bill, and what's on page 2,122? Probably something that you had in Seattle that you disconnected 5 years ago that you're still getting charged for. We pull all that data in, right? And do they currently have a holistic view of all that data in a single platform. I don't like, a lot of people use this term. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I am when it comes to what we provide. It's a single pane of glass. This is all managed, the telecom spend, the mobility spend, and the cloud spend. We can help customers manage it in a single platform. They're one click away from going through their mobility spend and figuring out what's going on that side, to going over to their traditional, network expenses versus and going to their cloud expenses. So they're one click away from doing all of that on a single platform. And then some of the other things. So here's some questions. Again, not going to get into the detail of it. I want to leave time for Q&A. I'll send these out. Here's a couple examples. We've got pages of them, right? But obviously, you just want to start the conversation, find out if there's an opportunity, and give us a call if there is. And from an ideal customer profile, I want to be careful, because when we talk about telecom spend, traditional wireline spend, right? We look for $1 million or more annually. We can absolutely do best. We just want to set ourselves up and you up for success, meaning if they're spending less than $1 million annually, our win rate is lower, because it gets to the point where they tend to manage it internally, right? So we can certainly do less, but we tend to find that $1 million annually or more is where we have our most success. From a mobile device perspective, same thing. 400 or more is where we maximize our success. We can do less. About a year ago, we did something for somebody with 90 phones. Wasn't a big deal, but a dozen of them were international, and they just didn't want to deal with it, right? So we can absolutely do less, but again, from success, and based on our history of success, that this is where we see us winning most appropriately and often. 2 million in IaaS spend or more. That's easy to get to these days. Generally, IaaS is 3x, 4x of their telecom spend, right? So getting to 2 million is not hard to do when you're talking about AWS spend. Sorry, didn't finish saying this. 750 users on the SaaS side. All right. So if they're looking for software as a service solutions, they got 750 users plus. That's where we're a good fit, regardless of how many SaaS applications that they have. Obviously, multi-location, the more the better. I'll keep this simple with the rest of it. The more mayhem, the better we fit, right? The more that they're just all over the place, multiple locations. If it's applicable, if they've got international, even better. Their resources are stretched. They've got some M&A activity going on. They're being asked, when I say they, whoever you're talking to, the IT side of the house, the CIO side of the house, they've got budget constraints. Their leaders are asking questions about, what are you spending this on? We help them figure that out, right? So
we've got a couple questions, and I know Brian's been furiously typing and responding in the Q&A. But just a couple. I know we've got 1 minute. One of the questions from Linda: large hospital systems we have as clients. HCA would probably be the biggest, that's most recognizable. I think they're the largest in America. So that would be one. I know LA Healthcare just came on board. I can go look and find a few more, but those would be the bigger ones. HCA being the biggest in the States today that we service. I think they have 250,000 employees. There was another one in there I wanted to address quickly. I know Brian put an answer in there, but the pain of switching my TEM, that will be if you are talking to someone that already has a TEM in place, and even if they are unhappy, the biggest objection you will get is that it can be painful to switch your TEM, right? And so our implementation process is much, much better than most. We've actually won awards that are not TEM related for our implementation team. We can provide additional staff augmentation. And then really from there, I would challenge you that if that is the answer, or if that is the question that they're asking, we have to tie the pain of what they are experiencing with their current is that greater or worse, or greater or, you know, harder than the actual pain of moving the TEM, right? And so if we get to the end of a sales campaign and we cannot do that, we have not done our jobs, right? We've not done what we need to do. And so we have to uncover that early, knowing that switching TEMs is absolutely a pain point and will come up. We can say we have the process all we want, but in the end, it comes back to tying those pain points, what it's costing them, what the impact it's having on their business, to the pain of switching a TEM and overcoming that there.